Now in this lecture, let's try to explore how to describe query parameters inside OpenAPI specification. Like you can see here, first we have built an API that supports HTTP GET. So inside HTTP GET, we can also pass the query parameters. So what do I mean by query parameters? So using query parameters, we can send the filtering criteria inside the URL itself. Like you can see here, this is the URL where we have a base path till v1. Post that, our path will get appended, which is /categories. And after that, I need to mention a query param which is category ID is equal to 1. So this means my API, instead of returning all the categories available inside the EG shop, it is going to return the details of the category ID which I am providing inside my query parameters. So this is what we are going to achieve inside this lecture. I hope you are clear. So the same we can represent inside our OpenAPI specification very easily. For the same, what we have to do is, like the query parameters belongs to the request section. That's why what we have to do is just after description and just before the responses, we need to provide a field name called parameters, because I'm going to pass input parameters or request parameters. That's why the name parameters. And since I can send any number of parameters, it's not only one parameter, I can send 2 or 3 or any number of query parameters. So that's why it accepts an array of parameters. So whenever I want to mention my parameter details, I need to start with hyphen. So once we provide this hyphen, which indicates an list elements under parameters, we need to provide what is the name of your parameter that you are going to pass. Like we saw previously, the name of the parameter is category ID. And since this is an array, this positioning doesn't matter. So I can make it more inside as well so that it looks better. Once we define the name of the parameter, we need to mention where this parameter is going to come. Is this going to come inside the query parameters or path params or in the headers, cookies? So these are the valid values. So that's why we need to be very clear, like where we want to send this parameter. So for the same, we need to give in, which indicates in which place we want to send it. So like you can see here, the valid values or the allowed values for in under parameters is path, query, header and cookie. So since we want to send as a query parameter, we need to provide the value as query here. And after that, we need to mention what is the type of your category ID. Is it a string? Is it a number? Is it an object? Since we want to describe our category ID type, we need to mention this schema like we used under response. Very similarly, wherever we want to describe our object or input or response request, so in all those scenarios we have to use this schema. So once we define this schema, I need to mention the type of the schema. Is it an object? Is it an integer? So in this scenario, since it is a simple input, I'm going to make it as an integer instead of an object. So with that, the story is completed because we don't want to further explain our schema. The reason is it is a simple data type. It's not a complex data type like an array or an object. And of course, we can also mention other attributes like required. Like I can mention whether it is an required true or false, which means whether it is a mandatory input or an optional input. So for this scenario, I'm going to remove this because I want to use the same categories API in two forms. One, if someone is not sending the category ID, I'm going to return all the categories that I have inside the EG shop. Otherwise, if I have valid category ID, I'm going to return the details of that particular category only. So that's why I'm going to remove this. And we can also define the boundaries for your integer here. Like I can use minimum like 100 and maximum like 1000. So this way I can define the boundaries for my category IDs as well. But please make sure, since I'm explaining these boundaries for the type integer, this minimum and maximum has to be present in the same line where my type is present. So with this, we have successfully mentioned the query parameters for our API path categories. So let's try to check how this is looking like inside my Swagger UI. So for the same, I'm scrolling down here. So now you can see here under parameters, we have a name, category ID. The description is empty. If I want, I can provide description as well just after name by using the description field. but for now that's fine, we can ignore because this is self-explanatory. So now it is clearly showing like this category ID is an of type integer, which is going to accept as a query parameter, and this usually represents what is the sample example value. Here, since we have not mentioned anything, it is simply showing whatever is the query param name. So what we can do is just after schema, we can provide the example by using the example field, and we can give some example value saying that like maybe 101. So now you can see the same value is being shown under this text field. So this indicates someone can send a query param of type integer and example value is 101. So now we have successfully defined the input query parameters with the help of OpenAPI specification. I know you might have a question here. What is the option that we have here? Try it out. So I don't want to hold your question, or I don't want to hold your anxiety. So let's discuss about the same in the next lecture. Thank you. Bye.